episode of Two Idiot Girls.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! And this is
Woohoo!
episode 9 of season 2.
Season
And
2.
today's topic has been widely requested for the last 16,000 months by all of you.
Yeah.
And as you could tell by the name of the episode, today we're going to talk breakups.
Mm-hmm.
But breakups of all kinds, not just romantic breakups.
Yeah. All of the breakups. They're all terrible. They're all different shades of terrible. So
They all make you feel like shit. So
yeah.
So I mean, the first one we're gonna go over breakups with your best friends or your friends and things like that. It was so funny because we've gotten a lot of requests to talk about like toxic friends and, you know, breaking up with friends and stuff like that. I didn't really have anything to add to this because I cut everyone else off. And I think it's because too, my best friends are my sister, who isn't allowed to break up with me, and my best friend Kaylani, who I've known since I was 14. So I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that for me, like, well, for you, it's like you never talk to them again. For me, and I don't really get close to people unless I feel the vibes are right from the very beginning. So I feel like I'm a pretty strong judgment of character. So I'm pretty accurate, I would say. So if I feel like the vibes are off, then 9 times out of 10 I'm right.
Yeah.
So I just keep my distance from people like that. But you know, unfortunately, I feel like part of being a woman in today's society is kind of going through different phases with different friends. But I don't think we've ever had anything that was terribly like, you know, like oh, it tore our friend group apart. I just thought of something. But anyways, like me and Dace went to high school. Like we're 2 years apart in age, but we're a year apart in grade. So we were always in school together until we were like transitioning till different like levels of schooling. So like when she went to high school, I was still in middle school, and like, but for the most part, we always shared friend circles. We shared besties. Like we were always like kind of on the same
like if
page.
no one ever just invited me to do something, they would invite like you and your sister or whatever.
They were always like, we should invite Dason and Drew. Like they like we were a pair,
literal
like,
twins.
Like we came in a pair. So like we never really had any sort of huge falling out. Like obviously there's like drama when you're in high school and it feels like it's the end of the world, but it was never really truly that serious, even though it feels like it is when you're in high school, you know?
Yeah, which is so funny because we were talking with a family friend who she's in high school, our cousin, and she was talking about how she's having drama in her friend group, and I was like, man, do I have stories, you know, about stuff like that, which I hadn't thought about in over 10 years or so. And we were talking about how, like, I don't know why my dad was the first person I called when I had a really bad experience with one of my friends at school in high school. My dad picked me up from school and he told me, Dason, everyone liked me in high school, so I can't really relate to how you feel. And I was like,
that's
why are you telling me this?
I feel like that's a privilege that men have. Like, unfortunately, that's something that's, I feel, pretty accurate as far as the gender binary goes, where like men don't really have to deal with drama the same way women do. Now, does that mean men are not dramatic? No, it just means men aren't affected by it nearly as,
or I think
severely.
like as emotionally involved with their friends. Like women tend to build their relationships with a lot of emotion attached to them. You know
well, and also they're just not affected by it. Like the ramifications of a falling out don't affect men nearly as much as they affect women.
1,000%, especially when you're young and
when you're like high school age. Like if people break up and then, you know, you're somehow involved, like they think like, oh, he likes you and that's why they broke up. The woman suffers greatly. She suffers way more than the man does. He doesn't even if he fucked around and cheated, like even if he was caught red-handed, like he's never the one who suffers the consequences nearly as severely as the women do, because
especially like when I think back to like certain friend situations we've had in high school, like if there was a rumor being spread about Drew, like and someone else in school, the only one who would face any real like social like consequences would be my sister. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like would be you. So like I
Yeah.
remember like that happening and you telling me like, what if people don't like me anymore? I'm like, well, I like you. Like that's not count.
And I was always under the impression that like if you're gonna automatically believe something,
Mhm.
even though you know me and you know who I am,
You're
then
not my
like
friend.
you were never really my friend in the first
Mm-mm.
place. Like I'm a firm believer in that because when people talk shit on people I love, I don't believe them because
No.
they're a fucking random person. Like
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm gonna check that out with her first. But
Yeah.
I think family is like so different. Family is like
Yeah.
no one's allowed to say anything about family. Like,
Period.
yeah,
Yeah.
to us personally. But I think like when it comes to like friendships, I think we were pretty solid, honestly, throughout high
Yeah,
school.
I think
Like
so too. We don't
we
talk
had
to
some
really
yeah.
anyone, but except for Kaylani. That's it.
Yeah, we had some falling outs like here and there,
Hmm.
like random drama rama here and there. But I think that just comes with the territory of growing up
And
because
being a teenager and yeah.
yeah, I mean, look at Euphoria. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Season finale tonight, guys.
Yeah, literally.
But
So
I think the first thing, like, because when you're in high school, especially when you're young, everything feels like the end of the world. You're like, oh my God, my
yeah,
friend doesn't like me anymore. I don't like my friend anymore. She makes me feel like shit or whatever.
yeah,
And you're outgrowing your friends. So when we went to college, I was like, dude, I'm never gonna talk to any of you ever again. And I literally could care less if I ever see you ever again. So literally every friend I had in high school, except for my sister and our best friend.
yeah. I think high school friends, like I still, there's like a handful I like keep in touch with.
Yeah, like
Like
there's people I'm like
we
cool
follow
with.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're cool.
Hmm.
They check in every now and then, but like the majority, yeah, like I mean like maybe this was just us, but like I couldn't wait to leave high school. Like I was like,
Yeah.
and we had a good time in high school. Like we were both relatively popular. Like we were fine. We had lots of friends. We did lots of stuff. We played sports, whatever. But I couldn't wait to leave high school just because I was excited to like try something new and like go somewhere new. Like
Yeah.
that was just like what I was excited for.
Mhm.
So like I feel like your friendships in college are so much more meaningful and long lasting because you're kind of like growing into the person you're meant to be.
On your own. Yeah,
Yeah,
like no
going into adulthood.
parents. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, at least that was the case for us because I know not everyone gets to go to college, but I feel like
Yeah.
the friendships and relationships you build after high school
Yeah.
tend to be a lot more long withstanding because you're growing up on your own and figuring out who you
Yeah.
are and
And it's
um
much more, I feel, intentional
yeah,
when you're in college. Like you make time to spend time with
sure.
friends. Like you go see them, you go visit them, like you make time to talk to them and all of
Mhm.
that. Whereas in high school, you're kind of forced to be
It's
in
kind
the
of like,
same room all the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
not comfort, but like a security thing. You're like, well, my one friend that I always hang out with is there,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
and you see each other every single day
Yeah.
and you're kind of like forced into this interaction where you're
Mhm.
like you have to interface with people constantly, the same people every single day for four
Yeah.
years. Whereas in college, you can pick and choose who you want to see. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to hang out with the same people every day if you don't want to.
No, for real. And then too, like, I think that's when you're figuring out, like we were saying, like figuring out who you are as a person.
Hmm.
So that tends to push you to outgrow like maybe your old friends you thought would be your friends
Yeah.
forever. And maybe they look at
Yeah.
you, they're like, oh, you're different. And all you're doing is like taking care of yourself or doing stuff you want to do for once, or you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Or maybe you discover a new part of yourself, like when you come
Yeah.
out in college, like
Oh yeah, dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just completely shifts the landscape of
Hmm.
like your relationships with people. And then like we said, we knew Kaylani was going to be in it for the long haul,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like we knew. But then like things happen, like life happens and you get older, and then we talked about this before, but like stuff like the election happens and
Yeah.
then you like it just completely shifts it once again, like
Yeah, and you have to
of
we talked about it, we called it purposely distancing yourself from people, like for the
yeah,
safety of like your mental health and like your moral
yeah,
values and things that are
yeah.
important to you. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, because it's one thing to kind of outgrow each other, like you just maybe don't see each other as often, and then you talk here and there, and you're like, oh, like I hope they're doing well. But it's another thing to like, be on different tracks morally,
Yeah.
because I always like, like when Trump got elected the first time,
Yeah.
right? I unfriended so many people like on
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram and stuff because it was really highlighting the bigotry in a lot of
Oh,
people,
I
like,
mean, yeah, because right before that was the Kaepernick thing with the
yeah.
NFL. And for me, like
And
coming back
Ferguson
from,
happened close
yeah,
to that time too.
coming back from Oregon, that's like, well, at least the space I was in was predominantly liberal, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like queer. Then I come home and I'm like, oh my God, all my hometown friends, they're not my friends, but my hometown Facebook friends. I'm like, oh my God, you're racist. Well, I come from a racist city. What?
And
You know what I
it's
mean?
more so, yeah. And I think too, like, it's one of those things where like you have a choice to make. Like you can choose to try and work past it, but like for us, like there's really nothing to work past.
It's
Like
black and white. Either
yeah,
you're it or you're not.
it's real simple to me. Like if
Mhm.
we both don't believe that everybody deserves rights, then like I don't really want to be your fucking
No,
friend. Like it's
period.
really
Yeah.
not that hard. Like
Mhm.
I feel like some people try to make it complicated because they want to save the relationships they have with loved ones or friends, which I understand, like I can empathize with.
Mhm.
Um, but then like, I could empathize to an extent, and then 2020 happened, right? And
Yeah.
then it got to a point where you really got to choose. Like you gotta decide like
Yeah.
what you're gonna do and who you're gonna be and who you're gonna associate yourself with.
Yeah.
And I always think too, like, you just don't want to associate yourself with people who make you feel bad. Like they make you feel
Mhm.
like icky inside. Like you don't want to be friends with people like that. You don't want to spend your time and energy with people like that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's more nuanced than that too, because like sometimes you outgrow people because they turn into fucking haters, like as you get
Yeah.
older. Yeah.
Yeah, because you graduate from college and maybe they didn't, which like going to college is a privilege, but that doesn't make me better than you. It's just something that I was able to do.
Well,
And
and like, career paths, like
Mhm.
if someone decides, to be an entrepreneur and someone doesn't, like I'm all about being friends and respecting each other's hustle. Like I don't care as long as it's not illegal and it's not hurting me. Like
Yeah, I
I'm happy
support
for you.
you.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we explored several different entrepreneurial ventures when we graduated from college
Mhm.
because our parents are entrepreneurs, right? So like, you reach out to your friends and you're like, hey, like I'm so excited. Like they're like, what are you up to? And you tell them. And then if it turns into a fucking hate parade, it's just like leaves this stink in your mouth,
Well,
bro.
the worst thing that Drew and I have both experienced is reaching out to people and then they say like they ignore your message
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at your DM a week ago and they're like, "Girl, your fam race to fame has been so crazy. What the fuck? Why are you texting me?" You know?
Yeah, yeah, that's something that's so funny because there were people I purposely distanced myself from because they weren't supportive. Like they
Mhm.
were bigotry aside, like we're gonna set that aside because like those people I don't fucking
Supporting
talk
your
to.
friends. So yeah, because I think this is really important because there's so many people that I've seen that start small businesses to
Yeah,
sell like handmade goods or they're starting some sort of like weed business, whatever. Like I've seen so
yeah,
many friends start their own thing, and I've
yeah.
never once been like, what a loser.
Me
I've never thought that. I would be like,
either.
girl, good for
Me
you.
either.
Like one of my friends, he started his own vegan brownie company. Like it's like brownie mix or whatever. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is so cool. And I bought some because it's not hard to support your friends. What's the
Yeah,
big deal?
and it costs you so little. Like,
Mhm.
and that's also indicative too, because like my college friends were very supportive, right?
Mhm.
My high school friends are like my
Not
high school,
supportive.
not so much, right? Like it turns into like almost like a pissing contest, which is not
Yeah.
what it is. Like that's why, like you said, it's not hard to support your friends. Like if they're like, listen, I know people want to talk shit on MLMs, but like one, they're not illegal, and two, like they're not hurting anybody. Like if
She
they're
wants to
going,
sell lotion. I'm not,
yeah,
maybe I don't want to buy any, but I'll tell you, you
yeah,
know what? I'm so excited for you. Congrats.
yeah,
That's
and
it.
that's another thing too. I always think there's a very polite way
To
to
say
be
no.
like, I'm not interested, but I'm happy for you. Like
Yeah,
that costs you nothing at all. Like you could very easily do that. I've done that countless times
I
when
know.
people were selling Amway, when people were doing crypto, when people were doing all kinds of shit. I'm like, you know what? I'm good, but like I'm happy for you. Like I respect your hustle, man. Good luck to you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it costs you nothing at all to not be rude. And so that's what we did that as like side jobs when we were out of college because we were working 9 to 5 obviously, but we didn't want to do that forever.
Mhm.
And then TikTok happened for me and then it just kind of exploded, and then now like the
Now all
people
these
that
people. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
thing is, like I always say, you think I don't remember when I when I reached out to you and you fucking ignored me or left me on red or you were really rude to me.
Yeah.
And then now that TikTok happened, you're like, girl, I can't believe it. Like, congrats. Like, you're famous now. Like, bro, get the
I was
fuck out of
literally
my inbox.
telling all of my cousins that I
Yeah,
knew I
like
knew. Yeah.
literally fuck out my inbox, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I just find that so disrespectful. Like, aren't you embarrassed? Like,
Yeah.
if I left your
Don't
ass
you
on
feel stupid?
but yeah, if I left your ass on red and then you fucking became famous or like you were in a movie or some shit, I would not be like, oh my god, girl, like knowing that you can see the message
And
above
that's what
it.
I'm saying. Like they can't see it. Yes, you
I
can.
would never do that. I would literally feel like a fucking asshole. And
Yeah.
I would just eat my shit, dude. I'd be like, oh, bummer for me. Cause if I had
Yeah.
been nice, maybe she'd still be my friend. But like I just find that so funny because people be doing that shit to me. And it's funny because you think I don't know? You think I don't
Yeah.
remember?
So if
Come
you're
on.
starting a small business and all your fucking friends you thought would support you or at least say something nice about you, they're all talking shit on you, just wait.
Yeah,
Just wait.
exactly.
You'll see.
Exactly. That's somewhat such a
All these Trump
great point.
supporters that were talking all this shit all of a sudden
Yeah.
are DMing our mom and
Yeah.
us. Liz, oh my gosh, I love her content.
Oh my God, I didn't even realize, is this your daughter? As if we don't have the same
Those are
fucking face and
the
last name.
worst DMs.
Dixon gets those all the time.
If you're a loose acquaintance of mine or an ex-friend or something, and you message me on well, there's very specific people that have messaged me that I don't care, but you if you're
Yeah.
listening to this, and you DM me, girl, is this your sister? She's so funny. What am I supposed to say to that?
Well, also, no
It's not
shit,
me.
bitch.
It's not
Well,
me. So then I with like here's I was telling my friend the other day, I was having dinner with him and I told him, I was like, yeah, like what am I supposed to say that? He goes, you should have written, don't worry, I'll tell my mom and dad they did a great job with her.
well, just like no shit, bitch. Like we're sisters. Like don't let's not do the game. You know what I'm
Stop.
saying? Like just let's just call it what it is. You want to be connected to me because you found out that my sister does TikTok now for a living. Like
Stop.
I just like I just mind it. I just have shame is what I always think. Like, and you know what?
Literally.
My friends that I talk to all the time, like my college friends specifically, like they have been nothing but supportive of everything I've ever done. Whether I was working at the NFL or I was trying to do my entrepreneurial stuff, or I was working regular ass 9 to 5. Like they have been nothing but supportive throughout everything. They're like, that's so awesome, so happy for you. They wish you happy birthday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they congratulate you on your success. I'm not a fucking hater. Like all my best friends from college have been incredible. Like like people from high school, not so much. It's not really the same. But not everyone from high school. But like, because I do have some friends from high school that I'm still really cool with. But like, you know who the fuck you are. If I'm saying this and you feel called out, you know who you are. You know what I mean?
If the shoe fits, it fits.
There you go. So I think like just when you get older, you get more intentional with who you want to spend time with, which I think is important.
And who you are and who you are. Like I don't act like that anymore. I don't believe in those things,
Exactly. And I think you just realize that you don't need a million friends to like be happy, because I do have lots of friends, but like I have a very small inner circle, right? And that's how it should be, I think, because it's quality over quantity, I think, when you get older. When you're in high school, it feels like you have to have all the friends in the world. And then when you get older, you realize quality is more important. Like ride or dies are more important than having a million fucking friends.
Yeah, when I think back to high school and how many friends I have, and I only talk to one, well, you and then Kaylani.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you'll figure it out. You'll find your ride or dies. Yeah.
And I feel like if you're young and you're in high school now, I feel like which ones you're gonna carry with you. There's probably like one, maybe two. Maybe like that you'll carry to the end. Yeah. But like it's not a bad thing. It's just a part of life. You know what I mean? It's nobody's fault necessarily. It is what it is. You guys get older, you grow into be different people, and then you just kind of branch off into different areas of life. But if they're meant to be with you forever, then they will be, like platonically or romantically. Yeah. Right. Which is a good segue
into the next part.
I think when I was younger, I thought that all breakups would be devastating and dramatic and horrible and just like life altering. When it came to friends, right? But then when you get older, you realize that it's kind of just like an easy transition. Like sometimes it just kind of fades and it's sad and it doesn't feel awesome, but like it is what it is. Sometimes it just happens. And then if you do have like a huge falling out, that's kind of sad. Like it doesn't feel great. But I'm the firm believer that if you're meant to come back to each other, whether it's platonically or romantically, because you can have friend breakups that hurt really terribly. But if you're meant to find your way back to each other, then you will. And I'm the firm believer in that. Like I've had friend breakups or friend pauses that we eventually found our way back to each other. So like, I mean, it's possible, but it's not necessarily devastating, I guess, every single time. It's just really sad sometimes.
So I think that's a really great transition into the next part that we've been requested to talk about, which is relationship breakups. So
you want me to talk first?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
I just want to preface this by saying I don't really have any relationship breakups to contribute, only because Billy's like the first serious relationship I've ever had like that. I like fully committed to one person. But that being said, I have been a shoulder to cry on for many over the years. So I feel like I'm a pretty good supplementary piece to this conversation.
But yeah, so I have only gone through one breakup and I'm currently in the end of it. At least the aftermath of it.
Coming out the other side.
Yeah. So I think like the only things I really like advice things I could really give is that like, well, first of all, I'm so thankful to my family. I feel like if you are a chronic Googler like me and you're like how to get through breakup, you've probably read through all of the same articles that I've read, how to make yourself feel better, all those things. And all of them always talk about, surrounding yourself with a supportive support system, like a really strong support system. So I think like that's the first piece of advice I would give. I'm so grateful to my family and Kaylani for being many a shoulder to lean on through this super weird phase of my life. I think another thing that I wanted to talk about was that in every article, and my therapist have told me, is the stages of grief that I didn't realize could be applied to this, because I thought that was usually for like if you are experiencing like a death of a loved one or something like that. So I think just taking note of what part of the stages of grief you're in is super important. Especially, I mean, they can go out of order, so I'm sure everyone has their own order that they've navigated through this. But it's nice to see that you're not the only person that's like going through something similar to this. And then it's nice because you're like, okay, I'm almost at the end. Like I'm not angry anymore. And now I'm just depressed. And so yeah, so that's a huge part of it, because I think it allows you to place like a label on how you're feeling, especially after, like, if you were in a relationship as long as mine was. It's very like not only inundating, but it's like I felt lost. Like I'm like, what am I doing? Like this is really odd, because
it allows you to like put almost like a timestamp on it. So you know like how much like left you have, essentially. Like what's next.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, good. Because I'm very much a planner. Like I don't like to do things if I don't know what like the 18 steps of what we're doing. And so same with this. I'm like, I've never navigated this. My sister hasn't, my mom hasn't. Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? So definitely lean on people around you. Take note of what stage of grief you're in, even though they all got to order. And then the most important one in any fucking article you look at that talks about breakups is this: focus on yourself, do things that you want to do, make yourself focus on you. And it's so hard when you're in a relationship for so long, you focus on the other person way more than you focus on yourself. At least that's what I did. And then you're like, I don't want to focus on myself. That's how it was, at least at first for me. But I think understanding that there is so much time to come, does that make sense, to like have to go through everything. So someone that I really connected with during the start of my breakup was with Tuffy. Hello Tuffy on TikTok and Instagram. She's
Love her.
literally the best person ever.
I fucking love Debbie. I'm in love with Debbie. Me and Debbie are soulmates.
And she had recommended watching like movies, and just movies she had recommended to me that have like that show like a woman going through a breakup, but then in the end she's able to get over it on her own, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily like because a man saved the day, or
Yeah, it doesn't end because she finds someone else or they get back together.
Yeah, so like
she just gets through it on her own.
Yeah, and that's honestly the most important part after a breakup, which I never would have thought would make any sense to me, even though obviously it makes a lot of sense, is healing yourself and making you feel better, and you're growing through it. So she recommended The Holiday, which I probably watched like 7 times this year, because it was Christmas time and stuff like that. So I watched The Holiday, and then another favorite of mine was Under the Tuscan Sun. That one, such a good movie. Love it. Even though Diane Lane calls Sandra Oh a dyke, I overlooked that part. That's okay. But
different time,
yeah. And then I think the last part is hindsight and being able to move forward, which is something that my sister has focused on a lot with me, is like, I think seeing things for what they really were, especially when you're in a relationship that was as long as mine was.
Yeah, I compared it to 500 Days of Summer. Like, you know, first of all, you know, everyone, like, initially when you first watched it, like, people were like rooting for him, but then you find out that he's actually the villain in the story. But like, which I feel like most women knew. Like, I mean, I did. The first time I watched it, I was like, take a fucking hint, buddy, when we were watching the movie. But and she never lied to him. You know what I mean? She was always so upfront with him. I think the gender roles being reversed though was like pretty powerful in the movie like that,
because they always paint women to have like these unrealistic expectations.
And they like see it. So anyways, for those of you who have seen the movie, if you haven't, please watch it. It's such a great movie. But like the soundtrack too is just like unmatched, yeah, ahead of its time. But anyways, there's a part in the movie where Chloe Grace Moretz's character, like, he's like friends with like she's like 13 or something. She tells him, he's like, it was perfect. Like, every time I look back, it was perfect. And she's like, look back and really see, was it actually perfect? And then you watch the same scenes again and you see all the little things.
Yeah,
that, like,
the parts that he overlooked and romanticized.
That he made to be bigger than they were, like that he romanticized like more than they should have been. And he just didn't see it very clearly because he was so desperately in love with her. So like, that's kind of what I compared it to when I talked to Jason about it, like, is like, look back and like really look at it. Like, you're just going to have clarity more than anything. It's not going to, it doesn't feel like it at first, but when you're ready to look back and see all the things that you may have not seen when you were in the middle of it, it might make it easier to like keep pushing forward. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So looking back and noticing, taking note of things, like my therapist is like, it's good to get these things, you know, like a list going in your head now, so then when you eventually are in a new relationship, like, you don't let things go unsaid for too long, which was something that I was, you know, not victim of, but like I was
Jason's just like a naturally very loving and passive person. So, you know, she's like, she overlooked a lot of things, and she has done that in like friendships and stuff when she was younger too, but now she can like so clearly see, like, you know, what she really wants and like what she's not willing to put aside for anybody.
So yes, I am single, for all of you people that are wondering.
Yeah, every time I do it's like, every time I do ask me anything, like, I do them very, very far and few between, but when I do, I always get a bunch of questions asking if my sister is single. Yes, she is. And she is also a little bit gay. Just kidding. Just a little, gay. Just a dash of gay.
So send me your profile and then I'll start setting up.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, yeah. So she is single. Yes, she is.
And for all of you that are listening, if you're going through a breakup or like coming to one, or like you could see one coming or whatever the case is, I just want you to know that you're going to be okay. I absolutely promise you that, even though it doesn't feel like it. Trust me, I know. It did not feel like it a lot of the time, but you're going to.
And it's also, I think important to, I know it's like, I'm not like an expert.
I knew you.
I know, I'm
Just
not like
kidding.
an
No, but even though you haven't gone through one, because even though like I am going through one, there are still things I don't see because I'm so deep.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like it's like
yeah,
balls deep into it. So it
yeah,
is good to have a different perspective.
yeah,
Because I didn't think we were ever going to break up. I thought this was, because that's all I knew,
yeah. I think that it's just, I think it's, I saw in a movie once when they talked about, it was like actually someone who was like a widow, like
Yeah.
they were a widow, but they said like grief and loss is evidence that you've loved terribly and desperately and deeply, and
Hmm.
that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
So like, although it feels horrible,
Hmm.
like it's just like unfortunately part of the human experience, but then you just know that you loved and gave it your all and you really
Hmm.
did try, and then that's all that you could just take solace in the fact that you gave it your all,
Yeah.
and it wasn't because you didn't love hard enough, and it wasn't because you were a bad person,
Or you weren't
um
enough.
or
Yeah.
you weren't enough. Yeah, like that's not why it ended because it ended. Sometimes it's hard to just see it
Hmm.
like as cut and dry as that because you were so emotionally invested in someone for a
Yeah.
long period of time, but when you just see it and tell yourself over and over again, it ended because it ended, not because I wasn't enough, not because I did anything wrong,
Hmm.
then you can start to like heal, I think, because I think sometimes people beat themselves up. So it like,
Oh, a
it holds you
thousand
back.
percent.
It
Like,
holds you back from
oh,
moving forward.
if I had done this, or if I,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
which
then
is like, I mean, that makes, I mean,
that's a
that,
stage of grief. It's called bargaining.
oh
And
yeah. See,
yeah, where you're like, oh, like if, I just call him one more time and I'll
yeah.
tell him I'll be different.
Yeah. Like it's, it's obviously like so you can make yourself feel better, but at
Hmm.
the same time, like if it was meant to be, it would have been. So
Yeah. So I think just my last little big piece of advice on navigating a relationship breakup is I think being kinder to yourself and having more grace with how you feel. Like if you feel sad, of course you feel sad. Something really awful happened.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's okay to feel sad, but it's not okay to stay sad because then you're not productive. Unless it just happened. Like, I mean, and everyone has their own timeline, and there isn't a set one where, like, my therapist is like, okay, it's been like this long, you need to get over it. Like, something like
Yeah.
that. But I
Yeah.
think if you're being kinder to yourself and having more grace and being more patient with yourself, for not only how you feel, but like how, like if you're fucking mad or upset or anything like that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then it makes it a little bit easier to move forward for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. To just like timestamp where you're at, be patient with
Hmm.
yourself. Like healing isn't linear, so it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen like in a perfect like slope
Yeah,
upwards.
it's
Like
very
it's
much a roller
yeah,
coaster,
it's
up
going to go
and
up and
down,
down, up and down. Yeah.
backwards. Yeah.
But the good thing to look forward to is that one day you're never going to think about that person again. Like that's like one day you're literally, it's going to be gone forever, and it's going to be
Yeah.
a distant memory, and you're going to be
Yeah.
so happy and so loved in the relationship you're meant to be in.
Hmm.
And I always tell people like, I always tell people when they ask me for advice too, like no one's ever going to love you like you love you. So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say
love
too.
yourself first, like
Hmm.
put yourself first, like love yourself the most. In a way, I'm not saying in like a self-centered way,
Yeah.
I mean like prioritize yourself, like you're just as important as your
Your partner.
romantic
Hmm.
spouse. Yeah, like you're just as important as them. Like they need to take care of you just like you take care of them. It needs to be equal.
Hmm.
And you also need to take care of yourself and love yourself and do things you want to do and do things that make you happy, whether
Hmm.
you're in a relationship or outside of one.
Yeah. I think that's a great transition to kind of wrap up the episode. So we always end on how we can do better. So we each picked a thing we wanted to share. So mine is, and this is something I'm just recently learning, is that you should always be the most important person to yourself. And that could
Mm-hmm.
be in any type of relationship, whether it's romantic or a friend. So, like, if you feel like shit, but your friend really wants you to come out, you need to take care of yourself. You should stay home. At the end of the day, if you don't have your friend or you don't have your partner and it's just you and you don't like you, it's going to be a really tough process for you, lady.
Yeah, yeah, because you should always have your identity outside of your partner. So like
Well, and
it's
like your own self-worth too. Like I
yeah,
think that like I think everything, if you tie literally your entire being into someone else and they just, fuck you over, and then you're
or
like,
leave.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, which is fucking you over, right? Then you're like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to be doing? Like, who? That's why I always, like, my therapist kept telling me, like, who are you on your own? Like, who are you? Like, if no one's there, your mom, your sister, all your friends, right?
Hmm.
It's just you. Who are you on your own? That's the
Yeah.
most important version of you that you should be striving to be always.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think too that when you take time to find yourself, like find exactly who you are and what exactly you want and all the different boundaries you have and the things that you want out of a relationship, and you're ready, it will happen. That's
Yeah.
like I like truly believe that like
Mm-hmm.
it's only going to happen when you're ready,
Mm-hmm.
because in any other stage you wouldn't be ready and it would just like hit the reset button if it ended
Yeah.
poorly, you know what I mean? So I feel like to truly be 100% fulfilled and happy, you have to be 100% fulfilled and happy with yourself, like as a
Yeah.
person. So, yeah. And for me, I would say that, at the end of the day, like you need to choose yourself if nobody else is going to. That includes your romantic partner. So, if they constantly put you on the back burner
Yeah.
emotionally, spiritually, physically,
Yeah,
like,
we were talking about Love is Blind, the newest
mhm.
season. So spoiler alert if you haven't watched the season finale. But Deep Tea, she was the Indian girl. She got chosen by the Indian guy, Sheikh. He the whole season was saying, kept telling everyone, like, I'm really emotionally attracted to her, blah blah blah. But like I don't have this like animalistic physical attraction. Was telling everyone that. He said it like probably like 8,000 times.
Which
And
is
then
so like vapid.
and
That's
well, and
so,
then you look at how he was at the start of the show, you're like, oh, like
yeah.
he was like how heavy are you, can I lift you on my neck at a music festival?
Yeah.
So anyways, at the altar, I thought for sure she was going to say yes and he was going to say no, but she said no. And she said, because I choose me. And then that bitch walked right off the altar all the way out and was telling her mom was like crying and saying, I'm so proud of you, like I'm so happy for you. And she was like, the girl DT kept saying, I'm not even tripping, like this is exactly what I wanted. He never chose me, and I could just never see a future where he would choose me. So I choose me. And I already know I'm going to find my
Yeah.
true love. It was never going to be him,
Yeah.
period.
And then it's like if you constantly are like giving and giving and giving and they're just taking, like at what point are they gonna ever choose you over
Yeah.
themselves? You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I always say, like, when you're on the brink of breaking up, or if you feel like you're gonna break up or something, like it doesn't really matter what the issues are. What matters is whether or not you love each other enough to choose each other and move forward.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people choose themselves
Yeah.
and they don't choose their partner, you know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? And well, that's why I'm saying, like, at, at at the end of the day, that's all that fucking matters, is whether or
Mm,
not you love each other enough to choose each other, like to
mm,
choose them. You're like, I choose you, like I want to work through this, like I don't care. Like that's a conscious choice you have to make. So if they're not going to choose you, you always choose yourself. Like
yeah.
if they hesitate, you choose you leave, you choose yourself, because
Even if you choose to work through it with your partner, it needs to be a decision that you're making because it's for you. It's not
yeah,
because like, oh, I feel bad for them, or oh, because
yeah.
whatever. Like I'm doing
Mhm.
this for me. But yeah, if they're
Yeah.
on the fence, fucking cut that bitch off.
Yeah,
Like
as soon yeah, you're
you
nobody's
I
second
pick me.
choice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're
pick me.
you're you're literally nobody's second choice. It should be a knee-jerk reaction. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I want to be with you. Not a like, well, I don't know, because it's not one of those. Like if
Mm,
that's the case, you cut it off at the knees, because that person's not choosing you, they're choosing themselves.
mm.
So that's my piece of advice is, if they stutter, if they hesitate, you choose you leave, just like deep D.
And
You know what I mean?
same with your friends.
You
If your
fucking peace
friends,
out.
yeah, if your
Mhm.
friends are I feel like with friendship relationships, people tend to pick themselves anyways. So like
Yeah, because you
most
don't
of
have as much, I guess, like
to
emotionally
lose,
invested. Yeah.
yeah, like it's just your friend,
It's
but it
just like a
doesn't,
different level, I think, of connection
yeah.
than romantic, right? But even then, like sometimes friends are like, you know what? I still want to work through this. I want to be your friend. I want to make sure we get through this together because I
Mhm,
really love you as a person. So like that's always a choice too. That's what I'm saying. It goes across the board.
mhm.
I think the stakes just feel higher when it's like a
When there's
romantic relationship.
romance involved, yeah.
Yeah,
The whole
absolutely.
thing. Okay, cool. All right, well, that about does it for this episode of Two Idiot Girls. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you rate and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We also might have a big announcement coming out soon about something.
Hopefully,
who knows? But
who knows?
Make sure you follow the Two Idiot Girls on Instagram. It's _Two Idiot Girls. Thank you so much for sending in your requests for topics to talk about. Please keep sending them to us because we love them.
Yes.
And please keep sending your celebrity crushes and your TV shows to the Instagram because I love looking through them. And it gives me a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
Other than that, we'll see you guys next episode. And yeah, bye.
Bye.